kids, it's me. I'm back with another story time video. This one's gonna be not so much about me, but about my friend Irene. If you watch my videos, you know that I have this friend Irene. I've known her for a super long time. We're really close. I know like all of her deepest, darkest secrets, or so I think. So recently, she had this childhood friend come back into her life, and this childhood friend's name is Claire Kendry. So obviously they knew each other as children, and they're both African American, and they both pass as white in society. So Claire does that all the time. So she like lives as if she was white. She's married to a white man and everything. And Irene only does it sometimes, like when she needs to. Yeah, whenever it's convenient for her. So they got back in touch, which I'll explain a little bit later about how they did that. But they've reconnected really quickly, and they like, I understand that they like both passed and they're childhood friends, so they like bond over that, and they know each other from, you know, childhood, and so they have that bond. But I just feel like they reconnected so quickly and so strongly. It's just weird. I think that Irene might be in love with Claire, and she doesn't want to say it because she doesn't want to be like outcast or like in another minority group. Okay, so the story begins with Irene being in Chicago, and she was in Chicago for just a weekend. She was doing some shopping and whatever, and it was super hot one day, so she like went up to this little cafe thing, and she was having tea, and there was a woman at the table like across from her, and she was staring at Irene, and Irene was getting really like agitated. She was like texting me during this. She was like, that's really, I don't know why this woman's staring at me, like yada yada yada. And I was like, I don't know, maybe you know her, like maybe she knows you, maybe she thinks you're pretty, I don't know. So come to find out, it's Claire Kendry. And Claire approaches Irene and they like reintroduce themselves, you know, like have a little discussion. But Irene was like, she was describing Claire to me, and she used the words lovely creature, which I just thought was like so weird. First of all, she called her a creature, which is super strange because like calling her creature like removes her from humanity, as if she's like not a human, because it's not possible for a human to be like that beautiful or lovely or whatever. And then she says lovely, like a lovely creature. And like, I'm totally for like girl power, like complimenting your friends, but lovely just seems like beyond the realm of friendship. So this was like the first inkling that I had that Irene was attracted to Claire. And Claire is a very beautiful woman, so like I understand that, but I just felt like the way that she was being described was like a little, like I said, beyond the realm of friendly attraction. So after their initial meeting in the cafe, they started hanging out a little bit. They like saw each other a few more times, and like every single time Irene would describe her as just something that like threw me off. She said that she had never seen Claire look better, and that she was stunning. Stunning is what really threw me off there. I totally get calling your friend pretty or being like, oh, you look hot, but stunning? Stunning is what your prom date should tell you look like. Every time she sees Claire, her descriptions of her, to me at least, get more detailed and more elaborate. It's like her attraction is obviously growing with every time she sees Claire. Since these statements keep happening and they keep becoming more elaborate, it's very obvious to like be able to see that like Irene is becoming more and more attracted to Claire in more and more ways. And I don't know, it's just super weird. Okay, so also, Irene keeps telling me time after time again that she's going to cut Claire off. Stop talking to her, stop seeing her for various reasons. Who really knows why? She was telling me that she wasn't gonna hang out with Claire anymore, and she seemed super irritated, like visibly very annoyed with Claire. And so I was like, oh, maybe this time, you know, like she actually won't see Claire anymore. But then Claire randomly shows up at Irene's house, and Irene told me that when she saw Claire, she had an inexplicable onrush of affectionate feeling. What? What does that even mean? Her feelings from literally just seeing Claire are so strong that it was like an onrush, as if a wave had like taken her away. That's so weird. She also said it was inexplicable, meaning that she had never felt this before. She's married to a man named Brian, and she's never felt this onrush of affectionate feeling with the man that she married, but she is with this woman standing across from her, literally just standing there. So at this point, I'm like, okay, so her attraction has definitely gone outside the realm of attraction, and now it is affection and lust. So her feelings are obviously growing, and I just wish that she would start expressing them. I think that she's so scared of what society is going to think and what people are going to say that she won't do it, but she's bottling this all up, and it's getting to her, and she needs to talk about it to someone. So recently, Irene and I read this story called Yentl, the Yeshiva Boy by Isaac Beshevis Singer. And it's a super cool story about this girl named Yentl, and she wants to live as a boy because she wants to be able to study like the boys are able to study. So she passes as a boy, and her name as a boy is Anshul. Yentl, passing as a man, Anshul, falls in love with her best friend that she meets at the study place named Avigdor, who is another man. So we were reading this. It's a super cool story. And while we were reading it, Irene got super tense and uncomfortable and nervous, and I would kind of just like didn't understand it because we had read other passing novels and stuff before, and she hadn't gotten nervous. And I know it's like a touchy subject for her because she passes, and so she relates to the characters a lot more than I do. And so she was super nervous, and I didn't really understand why. But I was thinking about it the other day, and I think it's because she sees how Yentl, or Yentl living as a boy, Anshul, was living her life happily and how she wanted to, and was doing what she wanted to do, and which was living as a man. And as living as a man, was still loving who she wanted to love, which was her best friend Avigdor. So she sees in this story how Yentl, passing as Anshul, is in love with a man whilst living as a man and doing what makes her happy. And as living as a man, loving a man is a homosexual, as seen kind of as a homosexual relationship. And I think that Irene saw this and became nervous because it was working out for Anshul / Yentl, and she doesn't see it working out for her. And I think that she had this like story, real life crisis thing in her head. And she was sad that she believes that it will never work for her. So she became sad by reading this story. And I felt super bad for her, and I tried to talk her down, and that it would be okay, but she just kind of shut down and left. And I wasn't really sure what to do at that point. So Irene is married to this man named Brian, who is African American. They have 2 kids together. They are super sweet family, awesome. But lately, Irene's been telling me that she's been fighting with Brian a lot. She said that she thinks he might be cheating on her with Claire. First of all, this is just not possible. And second of all, what? She said she was having distressing thoughts of faiths broken and trusts betrayed with every vision of Claire and of Brian. I think her feelings for Claire have complete control over all of her emotions, and she's just feeling so many emotions that she can't explain, and this guilt that she has because she's in love with this woman and she's married to this man is so great that her way of coping with it is to push it on to Brian. And by pushing it on to Brian, she's creating problems in this relationship that she has with Brian that is healthy and happy for the most part. But she has this inner turmoil that she needs to work through, and I think that's how she's doing it. So recently, me and Irene were also reading the story called Desiree's Baby by Chopin, which is an amazing story that I recommend to everybody out there. You should totally go read that. It's not that long. I think it's considered a short story, and it's so good. We were reading the story. This story is about a girl named Desiree who is African American, passing as white, married to a white man. She has a baby with this white man, and the baby is dark skinned. And obviously she's passing as white to this man. This man doesn't know that she's African American. So that's pretty much the premise of the story. So we were reading this story, and I think Irene started to relate to Desiree because they're both married, you know, they both have kids, they are both passing. I don't know, I think she like had this connection with Desiree. So in the story, in the beginning of the story, before Desiree has the child and gets married and everything, Desiree's husband, well, not husband at the time, this boy falls in love with Desiree just by looking at her, falls madly in love with her. It's amazing, everything is good, Desiree's in love with him too, and her life seemed perfect for a really long time. Throughout the story, you don't really know what's going on for a while. You don't know that the baby's dark-skinned. You kind of get that information towards the end. To the end of the story, Desiree and her husband leave each other. He tells her to leave. She takes the baby and she leaves and goes home, simply because they are African American. While we were reading this story as well as when we were reading Yentl, Irene just got so nervous and so tense and angry, and they're very emotional stories to begin with, and I was expressing my emotions, but she just had so many emotions, and I was like, that's so, I don't know, it was so weird. And what I think triggered her in this story is the fact that Desiree and her husband were happy and perfect and had a little family and were doing everything right, and then something happened, and some sort of passing came in, and he left her and she left him. Irene feels like she's passing in the sense of she's passing as heterosexual because she is homosexual. I think she feels like when Brian finds out that she's passing as heterosexual, he is going to leave her like Desiree's husband left her. And I think she was making the story parallel with her life, which there were a lot of parallels, which were it's kind of weird how much that story related to her. I don't know, I just feel like she put herself in this situation and thought this is what's gonna happen. And it might, but I don't know, I just feel like her feelings for Claire are becoming so strong that it's getting in the way of her marriage, her happy marriage, her family, all this stuff, and that's really serious. That's not something that we can just push under the rug, or should. And it's like Irene is more comfortable living in an unhappy heterosexual relationship than being happy in a homosexual one. It's because she's scared of what society is going to think. We do live in a very strong-headed, conservative society, and I think that she doesn't want to deal with that. And I don't know, she has this guilt, and it's eating away at her, and she needs to let it go. She needs to talk about it. So after Irene tells me that she's cutting Claire off, and then Claire shows up at her house, and she says about how beautiful Claire is, she tells me again that she's cutting Claire out, and she doesn't want to see her or talk to her, really associate with her anymore. So everyone's heard of the saying, love is like a drug, right? I mean, come on, everyone said it. Kesha has a song, something like that. I think, my best way to describe it is that, Claire is Irene's drug. So Irene did actually this time cut herself off from Claire and hasn't been seeing Claire. And Irene is so depressed and so sad and such a different person. She describes it as being a dull, indefinite misery that's taking hold of her, and she's weary and depressed, she says. That's what she told me, weary and depressed. Claire is like her drug. Claire gets her going, and Claire gets her out of bed, and Claire is what she wants to do and what motivates her and what gives her this drive. And she's addicted to Claire. She wants Claire at all times. She wants that. That's what gets her going. And when she doesn't have Claire, it's like she's coming off of the drug. Claire is what brings Irene all of her happiness and peace. And without Claire being there, Irene is depressed, and it scares me. I don't want my friend to be depressed because she's in love with someone that she feels like she can't love. So this is where I want to intervene, because I'm scared for my friend. Her love for this woman has completely debilitated her, and maybe if she admitted it to herself or someone else or even just me, she'd feel better about it. She won't do that because homosexuality is so trivial in today's society, and she's so scared of living that life and having to deal with that. And she already has this family with Brian and her kids. Living as an African American already, she has seen what society can do, the evils and the cruelty that society can perform. And I think she doesn't want to add that onto herself or her current family, because it affects everyone around you. So clearly you guys, or at least hopefully you guys agree with me on the fact that Irene is in love with Claire. She is literally debilitated by not having Claire around. She is so obsessed with the way Claire looks. All she talks about, it's all she thinks about. She's too scared to come out with it. But it's so obvious that she's in love with Claire, and I know I'm not the only one that sees it. And hopefully you guys listening to my story makes you guys believe that I'm right. So looking at Irene, just this situation, I'm sure there are thousands of situations just like this happening around the world right now. It's really eye-opening about our society and about how we influence how and what and who and where we love. And it's not fair. People should be able to love who and how and what they want and not be scared of doing that. And the fact that my friend, someone close to me, someone I care about, is laying in bed depressed because she can't love who she wants to love without being terrified, I can't live like that. It's scary that we have that much influence and that society has that much influence over us, that we are depressed, we're debilitated by this fear that society has put into us. And it makes me, and hopefully all of you watching this, more aware of how we treat people and how we react to people telling us things. Well, I hope this video gave you some insight on how hard it is not to be able to love who you want to love, and living in this society, having to do this. Hopefully together we can make everyone just more comfortable with being who they are and loving who they want to love. Well, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed my story, and I will talk to you all soon.